All right, on our Commanders top 30 list of players for 2022-2023, we are officially up to number 15. The 30 through 16 was kind of crazy. A lot of interesting names in there. I think you're going to get a kick out of this. Number 15 is Tress Way, our punter extraordinaire, Tress Way, special teams ace. Brian, you had him at number 31. Actually, that means you didn't rank him at all. Why did you rank Tress Way, Brian?
He's a punter. And no matter how great a punter is, and believe me, I understand flipping field position and all of that. His impact is still very, very, very small. I have no idea who the punter is on the Rams, on the Bucks, on the Patriots, on any of those teams. And if he's your best player, your team, essentially isn't very good. So there were other players who I valued, actual football players that I valued much higher than the punter. So that's kind of how I look at the punter.
So our best player of the last decade, you don't like. I got it, man.
I mean, we won nothing with him, so I don't know.
Wow. That doesn't make him not one of the best players on the team. None of what you said makes him not one of the best. I mean,
it's very hard for me to go rank him up there and be like, yeah. It's just
Eric, you had him as your number 3 overall player.
Sure did. How many players on our team? How many players on this team can you legitimately say are one of the best in the NFL at their position?
It's a fair question.
I think there are 2 other guys that you can say that, and they're both above Tress Way. I said it before. That's my philosophy on punters is you don't know. They don't matter until you don't have a good one. When you have, when you're deep in your own territory and, Shanky Shank-a-lot comes out and, punts 133 yards out of bounds, then you start to appreciate the punter of the caliber of Tress Way. His ability to flip the field, he's been doing it for years. He's awesome at it. He's been a Pro Bowler. He's always in the conversation for top punters in the league. And I have no problem ranking him as high as I did on this team because he is legit one of the best players on the team.
I had him at number 9. I agree with you, Eric. I think, listen, Brian, a punter matters, especially when you're not an explosive offense. Yeah. You have to, when you're a team that doesn't score a lot of points, you're playing chess every single game. So every single move matters. Pinning somebody deep in their own end zone is the difference between a win and a loss a lot of times. Tress Way, he's important to us. I'm sorry, man. You're going to have to get used to that idea.
Very good at his job.
Absolutely.
Yes, he is. Number 14, Logan Thomas, the tight end. Brian, you had him at 14.
Yeah, Logan has turned himself into a legitimate starting tight end. He is a red zone threat. And he really came on for us in 2020. I was very surprised the level of play he had, and in the few instances that he played in 2021, he showed that he was still that. He got a bunch of injuries, so I'm hoping that he's back healthy here at some point. But he's legitimately a good starting tight end in the NFL.
Eric, you also had him at 14.
Yeah, everything Brian just said. I think we're all on the same page here. Yeah. He's turned himself into a really good player. Hopefully he comes back healthy and he can move up that list a little bit. Been productive when he's here. Yeah. He's everything. He's more than what I expected him coming in, as a converted quarterback. He's done a great job. And I think, he's one of the top players on this team.
Yeah, I had him at number 12. I think just when he's healthy, he's one of our best offensive weapons. He had 75 catches a couple of seasons ago. The quarterbacks look for him. He seems to get open. Not a lot to complain about there from that position. All right. Number 13. Big number, 94, Duron Payne. That's our number 13 guy. Let's see. Duron Payne was your number 16 player, Brian.
Yeah, Duron is a solid defensive tackle. He was drafted number 14th overall in the first round. Has he lived up to the number 14th overall pick? I don't believe so. I don't believe he is one of the better interior linemen in the NFL. The guy who plays next to him, I believe, is one of the better interior players in the NFL. But he is a solid defensive tackle. He has the ability to make plays, but those plays sometimes are few and far between. So the little inconsistent when it comes to that, but he's a solid player. He's good.
Yeah, Eric, you had him as number 10.
Yeah. I mean, I somewhat agree with Brian in that he probably isn't as, hasn't shown. I think some of that is how he's being used. He's kind of, because this team doesn't have like a traditional space eater, that Duron Payne is kind of used as that guy and isn't necessarily, playing to his strengths at all times. I think with Fadarian Matthews coming in, I think you'll see a little bit, Mathis rather coming in, you'll see a little bit of a change, and you might be able to, utilize his skill set a little bit more. And he is capable of being like a dominant defensive lineman. I remember the playoff game against Tampa, the Heineke game.
Yeah.
I mean, after Heineke, Duron was the best defensive player on the field in that game. He was in Brady's face the whole time. He was really good. And he's had games like that. They're just not consistent enough. And I'm not sure if that's his effort level or if that's just, they're not using him, the same way all the time. I'm not sure what that is. I love the potential there. That's why I had him ranked a little higher.
I do agree with Eric, though. I think Eric was spot on with the if you put either a Jonathan Allen or a Duron Payne next to a big space eater like a that we believe Fidarian is going to be, I think they become more effective because Fidarian can take on a double team and those guys can now penetrate, shoot gaps, use their quickness a little bit better as opposed to, hey, hold up this offensive lineman and let the linebacker go make this play. So I do think, if we would see a jump in Duron's play, it would be because of that. He's used a little bit more correctly.
Yeah, and I had him at 11, so I think we're all in the same general area, especially you and I, Eric. Number, where are we at on our list? Let's go number 12. Any guesses, Brian, as to who our number 12 player is without looking?
Without looking, Cole Holcomb?
Yeah, it's Cole Holcomb. You look. It's Cole Holcomb. Brian, you had him at number 10 on your list. Why?
Yeah. He's healthy and he makes tackles. He gets a lot of tackles. Does he have some deficiency? Sure. But you want a linebacker to pile up the tackles, and he does just that. And he is versatile enough where he can play just about every linebacker position. And this past year in 2021, he had to play just about every linebacker position because he was the only linebacker who played. I mean, he literally played every snap this past season. So I think he's really good. And, maybe if we get some other guys around him, he could be potentially better.
Eric, he was your number 13 player.
Yeah, he slots in right about here. He is more of a tackler than a physical player. The guy he reminds me of old school is Chris Hamburger. Actually, he doesn't clothesline people because that's not allowed anymore, but he probably would if he could. But yeah, I think he's a solid tackler. He makes plays. He's a smart player. He's been kind of tasked with playing middle linebacker. I don't think that's the best spot for him. But I think he's been an effective player, and I think 13 or 12 is right about where he belongs on this team.
Yeah, he's growing on me a little bit. When he first started, I thought he was severely overrated, especially by fans. He's grown a little bit on me. He does have the deficiencies, Brian, you were talking about, and Eric as well. He's kind of weak at the point of attack. He gets pushed back a lot when he tries to tackle people. But his athleticism is used pretty well. He's a solid linebacker for us. So I had him at number 14 for me.
Ellie, your interview with Doc pointed it out. I think we have linebackers who run around blocks. We don't have linebackers who run through them, and I think that speaks to the physicality. Yeah. So you and Doc nailed it right there. We've got some guys who aren't necessarily, that physical at the point of attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Ironically, our number 11 player is Carson Wentz, since he wears number 11. Imagine that. Brian, wait a minute. Do I have this straight? Carson Wentz trade hater himself had Carson Wentz rated number 8 overall. Explain yourself, Brian.
Yeah. So again, I I'm not a fan of the trade, but do I acknowledge Carson Wentz is a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL? Absolutely. The man had 27 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions last year. He's not awful. Like, he can legitimately play the quarterback position. And when you're talking about quarterback, they're always going to be rated higher than other positions on the team, and we don't have anybody who is near as talented at the quarterback position on this team. And he is, he's very talented, and that I think that speaks to more the lack of talent, or maybe still the growing talent on this team isn't where it should be, but. I mean, he's a good player. Is he good enough to carry us and cover all our flaws? That's where I say not so much. But is he good? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll take that. Eric, you had him at 15, right?
Yeah. It was tough for me to slot him because I haven't seen him play here yet. I mean, you look at you look at just the numbers that he put up last year, and they were like fantastic numbers, right? But I've also, watched this team when Kirk Cousins was here, and I understand that numbers don't tell the whole story. So I put him at 15, basically middle of the pack, because I don't know what to make of him yet. When I see him in the offense, he could go up or down, but I just kind of threw him in the middle of the pack just for that reason.
Yeah, I have him at 10. I think, look, he's a good player, and he's going to be one of our best quarterbacks that we've had here in the last 10 years. The other players I have ahead of him, I just like a little bit more for this team. And, part to what you said, Eric, we've seen him in, these uniforms before. Well, not these uniforms, but, in Washington uniforms before, to know what they can do. So I have him at number 10. All right. Which means our actual number 10 player is Antonio Gibson. Now, think about that. All the things that people complain about regarding Antonio Gibson, he is our number 10 overall player for 2022-2023. Brian, you have him at number 11.
I put him at 11 because I know how much you guys liked him, so I moved him. I moved him up on my list. No, he has so much ability, and he has been productive. Right, he's gotten production. These past 2 seasons, we've seen glimpses of what could potentially be elite production from him, but we've also seen, a lot of bad things from him as well. So he's not, not a perfect player by any means, but he is certainly talented, and he's certainly got a lot of production these past 2 years. So I think that's a good spot for him.
Yeah, Eric, you had him at 12.
Yeah, I'm fine with him at 12. It's based again mostly on he's had some good production, but he's kind of left a lot out there. I think he's potentially easily a top 10 player. I'm just not 100% sold on him as a running back just yet. I think that he again, I'm not sure that we've been using him to his strengths at all times. I don't like him as a grinder, and I don't think this season we'll see him in that role as much. I think we might see him get outside a little bit more. He's a 4-3 guy. We don't need to be running him, between the tackles like nonstop. So I think he can move up this year depending on how he's used, and if he responds well to the way that he's used this year.
Yeah, for me, it's simple. He's one of my favorite players. I've said that 1,000 times. He would be top 5 if it were not for the fumble issues. But as it stands, he's number 8 overall for me. He's probably our most talented player, or one of our most physically talented players. When you factor in size, speed, things of that nature. And I hope to see it all come together this year. So Gibson was our number 10 overall player. Number 9, Chase Rouillet was our nice number 9 overall player for the Commanders for 2022-2023. Brian, you got him at number 5. Let's talk, man.
No, absolutely. When you look at the center position and you look at some of the metrics, whether it's PFF or some of the other kind of grading systems that are out there, Chase Rouillet is one of the better centers in the league. So we're not even talking about a player who's, hey, is he one of the best on the team? He's considered one of the best at his position in the NFL. I mean, when you look at the pass block and run block win rate metric that ESPN uses, he is consistently in that top 4, top 5 of those. And that is, again, all of the centers in the NFL. So he is legitimately one of the better players at his position, which, in turn makes him one of the best players on this team. And at 5, that's where I put him.
Okay. I know you love your offensive linemen too.
I do. I love him. I love him.
Eric, you had him at 7.
Yeah, I think he's our best offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And I had some of the other guys. I had Norwell in top 10, I think. But I think Roulier has been our best offensive. I think even including Sheriff last year, I think Roulier was performed the best out of ours. I think health is the only concern with him. And he, it's tough for me to evaluate center play or offensive line play in general because I just don't pay enough attention to it, honestly. But yeah, just going the numbers that Brian just said, just gave us kind of a test to the fact that he's one of the better centers in the NFL. So again, he's among the top guys at his position in the league. So why wouldn't he be one of the top guys on the team? So I had him at 7.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I wanted to put him in the 20s, and then you guys sent me your list, and I felt stupid. I was like, I got to be missing something, so I bumped him down to number 13, and that's where he is for me. He's a center. I mean, it is what it is. Yes, he might be one of the best, but he's a center.
If you got a bad one, man, I'm telling you,
I mean,
just like a punter.
Yeah, but at least you can cover for a bad center. I'm just saying. I don't know. I just did it because I felt stupid when you guys sent me your list. That's all. I was pressured into it. All right. All right, moving on. Number 8, J.D. Mckissick. He is our number 8 player for 2022, 2023. Brian, you had him at number 9.
Yeah, JD's awesome. When he came here, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from him, but he has turned into a legitimate playmaker in the NFL. I mean, he is explosive. Once he catches the ball, he can literally turn it into a touchdown. And I mean, in various or multiple games, he carried the offense. I mean, in that Seattle game, he scored 2 touchdowns. The Falcons, he scored the winning play. I mean, there were multiple times throughout the year. He's awesome, and I hope he gets a lot of run this year. But that's why I had him as high as I did.
I can dig it. Eric, you had him at number 8. You feel good about that still?
I do. McKissick is a very valuable player to this team. Whoever did the pro scouting for that free agent class in 2020 knocked it out of the park with him and Logan Thomas. The numbers weren't there before he came really, but he was poised for an explosion, and that's exactly what happened. He's one of the most reliable players on our offense, and yeah, definitely a top 10 player for us.
I had him at number 5. I agree with everything you all said.
Oh.
It's just hitting me looking at this list that he's ranked above Antonio Gibson, which is kind of interesting to me. I don't know. But he does great things for our team, our organization. So I can't really complain about that too much. All right. Number 7, Kendall Fuller is our number 7 overall player for 2022, 2023. Obviously, he's a cornerback. Brian, you had him at number 4 overall.
Yeah. I think he is a much better player than he's kind of given credit for here. I think some of it's due to the scheme. I mean, we saw him play on the outside in Kansas City, win a Super Bowl there. He's really good. I think this scheme where they've got to play 10 yards off the ball kind of limits these guys, and then he was forced into the slot. But once he came back outside, I mean, he played really, really well. I think he is a very good corner. Maybe because he doesn't get some of the INTs that some other guys get, we don't think of him as the same quality, but I think he is one of the better corners. Is he a top corner in the league? No, I get that. I'm not saying that. But in terms of this roster, he's one of the better players.
Okay. Eric, you had Kendall Fuller at number 9.
Yep. He's our best corner. Last year, he was really, really excellent, especially second half of last year. He really stepped up, and he's been good. He's been consistent throughout his time here, and obviously he was really good in Kansas City in the short time that he was there. So, yeah, he's definitely a top 10 player for this team. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. The interception numbers weren't there last year. Hopefully those will be back up, and he can get a little bit of love from the rest of the league. But, yeah, he's definitely a top 10 player for us.
I concur. I had him at number 6. All right, number 6, Montez Sweat. He is our number 6 overall player for 2022, 2023, the defensive end, edge rusher. He is our number 6 overall player. Brian, you had him at 7. Any ill feelings about that now?
No, not at all. I mean, he is a excellent player for us. I think he's super athletic. I think he's still young, so he is still growing into what he will become. I think there's just been a little bit of inconsistency to start out the career, and then he had a major. Well, no, it wasn't that major of an injury, but he had an injury. He was out with COVID, so he was in and out of the lineup last year. I think, which kind of hampered his production. But he's a really, really good player, and I think if he has a healthy year this year, we're going to see a super productive, dominant defensive end performance from him.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I had him at number 4. Eric, you as well had him at number 4.
I did. I think he's a absolute beast, and I think this year he's gonna ball out. This year he's trying to get paid, and it is time to. He's really going to show this year, and the production has been there since he started. He's had a couple of games where he maybe hasn't shown up, but he's always around the quarterback. And he's just made some super freakishly athletic plays. I love watching him play. He's a really fun player to watch. So yeah, I got him at number 4. I got no complaints about that.
Yes, sir. We are now officially into our top 5 commanders for 2022, 2023. Shout out to all of these players. Coming in at number 5, Chase Young, the defensive end edge rusher. He is our number 5 player for 2022. Brian, you had him at number 6.
Yeah. With Chase, anything is possible on defense. I mean, he has so much ability. He is literally a guy who can change the game, right? By causing some type of turnover, by picking it up and running it in for a touchdown, by getting a much needed sack. He can do all of those things. Did he have a little bit of a letdown in season 2? Yeah, maybe he did. Hopefully he comes back better, bigger, stronger in year 3, but he has so much ability, and if he even gets 80% of that ability, he's going to be a problem for everyone. So yeah, absolutely.
Eric, you also have him at number 6. Anything to add to what Brian said?
Yeah, he should be number 1.
Yeah.
There's no reason why he's not. I mean, the only reason he's not number 1 is he hasn't produced yet. He had a good, strong rookie season. He did not follow that up last year before the injury. He was close a lot. He did make some plays, but he was not a dominant player that everybody kind of expected him to be. I think when he comes back healthy, this year maybe getting back right, and I think next year is the year he really takes off. So, but yeah, I mean, he really should be number 1 on this list. But I had him at number 6 just based off production thus far.
Yeah. All right. He's my number 3 overall player. He's got talent coming out the wazoo. The man had an injury last year, but if you go back and watch the games, he was having an impact. He didn't have the sack numbers that we wanted, but he was still very, very good for us last year. And I expect huge, massive production from Chase Young this year, even coming off of an injury. All right, number 4, Cam Curl, the people's safety, Cam Curl. Brian, you had him as your number 3 overall player.
Cameron Curl is just excellent. He does everything well, whether it's coverage, whether it's run support, whether it's play recognition, whether it's tackling, whether it's communicating on the back end. He does everything well, and he is young, and he's only getting better. He's only been hampered by this coaching staff. After coming off a good rookie year, what do? They sideline him to start last season and had him coming off the bench. He is a starter and should be on the field every defensive snap. And I think you're going to see that this year, and you're going to see a much bigger year from Cam Curl, where he plays whatever position it is, whether it's just strong safety, whether it's Buffalo nickel, whether it's linebacker, whatever you want to call it. He will have a really good year. So big fan of his, and he is one of the better players. Yep.
Yeah, Eric, you had him at number 5.
I did. Everything Brian just said. He was the steal of the 2020 draft. I can't think of a better value pick than Cam Curl in the 7th round. If you can find one and on any team in the NFL, please tell me, because I don't know. And we're really hung up on this Terry McLaurin extension, but Cam Curl, he needs to get paid too, because he's got a year left, and they need to be working on an extension for him too. He's an absolute stud, one of my favorite players on the team.
Yeah, and I think everything you guys said is correct. So I'm just noticing as I'm going through this list
what happened?
that somebody's missing from our list, and I can't figure out who it is. So anyway,
we haven't gotten the number 1 yet.
No, but Terry McLaurin is the next player. I have him at 3. He's actually 2. Terry McLaurin is the number 2 overall player for 2022-2023. Let's see. Brian, you had him at 2, and Eric, you had him at 2. Yeah, talk to me why, guys.
Because he's Terry McLaurin.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've said this before, but no one else has turned water into wine on Sundays than Terry. I mean, he has had some of the more subpar quarterback play in his 3 years so far, and he's done nothing but produce. I mean, yeah, and the guys who we're comparing him against have had much better quarterback play, and their stats are essentially similar or slightly better. And to me, that is wild when we look at some of the quarterback play Terry has had, and his production is similar to those guys. And he does not complain. I would be complaining every day that the quarterback should not be on the field, but he never says any of those things. He goes out there and competes, and he competes well. So he is the guy. We need to get him paid, and he should be number 2.
He is a master of chicken salad. Brian is correct. One disagreement I have with what most people think is I actually don't think he's underrated, because if everybody says you're underrated, you're not underrated. I think people really understand how good he is. Yeah. We just haven't seen like his full potential yet because of what's been throwing him the ball. He's as good a wide receiver as you're going to find in the NFL. He is a legit superstar potential wide receiver. He's got a competent quarterback now. I mean, he's going to have. I can see him having a huge year this year. Yeah. He's just an awesome player. He's my favorite player on the team. And yeah, number 2 is where I have him.
All right. So the first thing I'm gonna say about Terry McLaurin is he is underrated. No. Listen, I think that Terry McLaurin is the number 1 player on this team. I have him as my number 1. But the average of you guys voting number 2 put him here. Look, the thing that holds Terry back is, yes, it's quarterback, but it's his lack of just outward personality that really prevents him from being a superstar wide receiver in the NFL. But that's okay, because he could just be a superstar here. Please sign this guy. But it's okay. He's our superstar, right? So he's my number 1 overall player for 2022-2023. He is number 2 on our list. And our number 1 player for 2022-2023 is none other than John Allen. Eric and Brian, once again, you 2 are the ranking twins. You had him at number 1 overall. You guys still feel comfy with that decision?
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, he's the best player on the field all last season. He was didn't get enough all-pro votes, and I think that's a symptom of being, playing here in Washington. You just don't get the love. He was as good as any defensive lineman in the NFL last year, Aaron Donald included. He was absolutely fantastic last season. Never took a playoff, was a factor in pretty much every game. And he is one of the best at his position in the league. And I have him nudging out Terry McLaurin as best player on this team.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Eric just said. When you're considered one of the best at your position, not even like, hey, you're one of the 10 best or 5 best. If you look at interior defensive linemen, right, Aaron Donald is the standard. Cam Hayward from the Steelers is right behind him, and then you've got 3 or 4 guys who follow after that. Jonathan Allen is one of those 3 or 4 guys, so he is literally one of the best at his position. And there are so many metrics out there that say that he is literally right behind those guys. I mean, he is like third to those guys in a lot of categories, and he's been steadily building to this point. So absolutely, I mean, for him to get that contract and then go and perform, how many times have we seen a guy get a contract and then he gets hurt in the second game? I mean, he stepped up and played well when, most of the defense wasn't playing well, or defensive line, I should say, wasn't playing well. So absolutely, he's a face of the franchise. He's that type of guy that you want to follow.
I like Jonathan Allen. He was my number 2 overall player. His production and talent is undeniable, especially coming from a D tackle position. I just think that Terry truly is the face of this franchise, but I cannot be mad at Jonathan Allen being number 1 overall for 2022-2023. Shout out to our editorial department. They have reminded me that Danny Johnson was actually our number 30 player. So
everything, just move everybody up.
Yeah, move everybody up
Everybody
one.
gets moved up one. Awesome.
Yep. Danny Johnson was number 30.
Danny
So,
Johnson was number 30.
he was number 30.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, if you've enjoyed this, make sure you like, subscribe, leave your comments, tell us who your players are and what order you'd have them. Please include all 30. Don't leave one off like we did. And tell your friends about this, because this is a fun exercise, and we're looking for good things from all of these players on this list. And next year, if our draft goes well, or if our draft went right, this list should look completely different going into next season. So thank you for checking this out with us and going along for the ride. We've enjoyed it. Peace.